Hello, everybody. This is Brett Lonsdale from Lightning Tools. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon. This webinar is going to be on Microsoft Viva. So, yeah, like I say, welcome to the webinar. Let's get started. So, first of all, I just want to give you a very quick introduction to Lightning Tools and myself. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time here because we've got a lot of content to get through, and I'm not going to talk about all of our products either. There's a list of our products in the bottom left-hand corner, but that's not what this webinar is all about. We're actually going to be talking about a Microsoft product today, and that, as I mentioned, is Microsoft Viva and the different modules that make up Microsoft Viva as well. So just that quick intro on Lightning Tools. So we're a company based in the UK with also a presence in the US as well. And as a company, we provide different components for Microsoft SharePoint and also Microsoft Teams. We've been doing this for the past 15 years. And yeah, each of those different products are available for SharePoint on premises and also SharePoint Online. If you want to find out a little bit more about them, you can head over to lightningtools.com. But yeah, today's webinar is all about Microsoft Viva, and rather than start explaining what each of the different modules do from a technical standpoint and give a feature demonstration, what we're going to do first of all is just actually focus on our journey as a company. And that will hopefully give you more understanding as to what each of these different modules that make up Microsoft Viva can do for you as they have started to do for Lightning Tools. Obviously, Viva is a very young product, and this is something we're starting to put into practice. So we're going to start off there, just a brief sort of backstory, if you like, to how Lightning Tools set out on its journey as a company 15 years ago, and what the employee experience was like then, how it evolved through some business coaching, and also how we've now started to implement Microsoft Viva to complement what we've done with regards to our employee experience. So let's start off there, but then what we're going to do is go into some of the different modules. We're going to talk about Microsoft Viva Connections and what it is, how it might fit inside of your organization as it has done inside of Lightning Tools. We're also going to take a look at insights as well. So how that can be useful to you personally, but also useful to managers and organizational leaders. We'll also take a look at Viva Topics and how that can be useful to improve learning of different abbreviations and technical terms, or terms that may be used throughout your organization that when somebody starts with your organization, they may not necessarily know what these terms are. We'll also have a look at Viva Learning, and we'll wrap things up with Viva Goals this afternoon. Of course, there is now Viva Engage as well, and Viva Sales, which we just won't have the bandwidth to talk about inside an hour. So I'm going to focus on what I consider to be the most topical Viva modules. But if you like, if we get that good feedback from today's webinar, what we can do is focus on those latter ones at another date as well. So first of all, what actually is Microsoft Viva? So head on over to the Microsoft.com website and look up Microsoft Viva, or Google it, Bing it. And what you're going to see is perhaps a lot of marketing material around Microsoft Viva and what it can do for the employees inside of your organization. So Viva is basically something that is going to help with personal growth. It's going to help with achieving goals. It's going to help with insights into how you work every day. And all of this is sort of coming under the umbrella of the employee experience. And Microsoft Viva is really that employee experience platform that is spread throughout Microsoft 365 and especially Microsoft Teams. It's made up of different modules. Like I mentioned on the agenda slide just a moment ago, we've got Viva Connections. We also have Viva Insights and Viva Goals, Viva Engage, and Viva Sales, etc. Yeah, we're going to take a look at each of those and how you may be able to use them inside of your organization. So what I want to do first of all is, like I say, give that backstory, because it's going to be helpful to actually understand how these modules may work for you as they have done for Lightning Tools. And to start off with that backstory, I'm going to explain how we were as a company 15 years ago. So 15 years ago, Lightning Tools was started by a couple of programmers. There was myself and my former business partner, and we had the idea of creating products that would fill gaps inside of Microsoft SharePoint. So these were web parts, these were tools, and so on. That, of course, back then was for SharePoint 2007. We each had background experiences, trainers, developers, consultants, etc. And what we'd never really done is actually successfully run an organization that employed staff. And for that reason, there was some challenges that started to creep up as the years go by. And one of the first things that was really a challenge was we started to recognize that we'd created some great products. We'd managed to sell products to some organizations that just really blew our mind back then. And we were also able to provide a good level of customer care and customer service through our tech support. But what we didn't have was actually a clear destination as to where we were headed. And this was a challenge when we were bringing staff into the business, because they would come with their experiences from their prior organization that they worked for, and they would work in their way and not necessarily fit with inside the direction that we wanted to run in. And that wasn't their fault, but perhaps actually an issue where we had a vision that was in our head. It may not have been a well thought out vision, and it was not necessarily something that we really shared well with anybody that was joining the company. And when that person did start, we did some in-house training. We basically sat them down and we threw lots of technical information at them and expected them to retain it. So this was perhaps 5 years or more of information that we'd learned about, our products and how we'd built them and what they did for Microsoft SharePoint, who our customers are, and so on, and really expected them to retain all of that information and then just get going doing their job from day one. And that just wasn't realistic. And of course, there was challenges that grew out of that as well. Another issue that we could sort of look back on is the fact that employee reviews were just things that happened once a year. And those reviews, you've probably all been in them, they tend to be a salary negotiation as opposed to really sort of positive feedback about how you've performed. And it certainly wasn't always two-way feedback either. And of course, the challenge was that, yeah, it was just happening once a year. And the other thing that I remember is our employee contracts were just written by a third party, and of course consulted with us, but they were rigid and they didn't provide the flexibility and so on that we would have hoped to have provided as a company. And all of this was because we didn't really decide who we wanted to be as a company and what values and what vision we wanted to have as an organization, and the type of employee that we wanted to be. So we transformed, and this is prior to Microsoft Viva being created. This is way prior to Microsoft Viva and pre-pandemic as well. Microsoft Viva was actually something that was born out of the pandemic. It's less than 2 years old, but what we've been able to do is start to adopt this to support what we've been learning through a different journey that we've been on with a leadership coach. And this story actually started off with picking up a book. The book was called E-Myth. If anybody's read it, it's a fantastic book. If you do run a small company, I'd really recommend taking a look at it. And it's based on the fact that it's an entrepreneurial myth that everybody who runs a company is an entrepreneur. And that was exactly the situation that we were in. We'd created a company based on the fact that we were programmers and we had this ability to build products and of course sell those products and support those products, but we weren't necessarily entrepreneurs with that skill set of running an organization. And that meant that we didn't really know how to look after employees and provide that experience that we wanted to provide. So when you take a look at the E-Myth book, it really is based on people that have a skill. It may be that you're a chef and you start your own restaurant, or it might be that you are a mechanic and you start your own garage, whatever it might be. And I was a developer who started my own software company. And when we created the company, as I mentioned, these were some of the sort of challenges that we started to face. So I read the E-Myth book and it really sort of highlighted what we needed to start focusing on. And that opened the door to bringing in a leadership coach. And one of the first things that we we experienced was actually looking at me and my personal values, which really confused me at first. It's like, why are we looking at me and not looking at these challenges that we have with other people inside the organization, or with the sales team, or with the tech support team, and so on? Why is it that we're looking at myself? And it soon started to become clear that without having a clear vision, that it was involving everybody inside the organization and involving them and their values, that we weren't necessarily going to be creating a company where people were happy. And that's what we have now been able to generate, and hopefully Microsoft Viva is going to help support that as we go through. So we spent some time focusing on individuals' values. So there's several different value determination exercises that we did. We were able to help work on people's personal visions and align them to our company vision, and that, of course, provided this ability for them to be happy inside their workplace. And like I said, this was all happening prior to the pandemic, and we already had remote workers and so on. So this is something that we could really sort of build on through the pandemic as well. We also, and this came through as a suggestion, to have weekly, open, honest, private employee development meetings, which my first reaction was, wait a second, how am I going to have time to do that? But what it has really meant is that rather than having an annual meeting as a one-to-one, having a weekly one-to-one really does keep everything constant. We're in touch with every single employee. We know what issues they're having. We know how to improve those issues, and they can retain their happiness inside an organization before it's too late. And of course, somebody's handing in their notice and moving on to other organizations. So again, we've done some great work here, and this is something that Microsoft Viva can help support. We weren't always using Viva. We actually use some other software called 15.5, which helps supported the employee development meetings, along with other things like SharePoint sites and of course Teams and Skype for that, and so on. So let's take a look at how Viva has really sort of helped us now to support this journey. And where we're going to start off with is Viva Connections. So I'm going to introduce Viva Connections and what that is. And I must admit, when I first looked at this, I thought, hang on a second, isn't this just another SharePoint site? So of course we have SharePoint team sites. We've got modern SharePoint team sites, and we've got SharePoint communication sites. And then I forget when, but a couple of years ago, there was the concept of SharePoint home sites, which actually was just a variation of a SharePoint communication site. And now we have Viva Connections, which when you look at it, it's like, okay, that just looks like a SharePoint site. But then you start digging in and taking a look at, well, where does this site sit? How do people access it? What sort of information would you put into it? And how is that information made available through a connection site? And you realize that there's actually a bit more to it. Of course, yes, it is a SharePoint site, but it also has this dashboard component with adaptive cards and so on. But it can also be added to the Teams environment via the Viva Connections app, and that also makes it available on your phone through the Viva Connections app, through the Teams mobile app. And then we've got this sort of central hub that is all based around the employee experience. It's all based on you as an employee and making sure that you're happy and you're being your best. And that's one of the first things that we actually put on our communications, our connection site, was our company vision. So we decided where should our bar be, as far as how far do we want to set our bar. And of course, when we first created our company vision, we were looking at, well, yeah, we need to improve stability, we need to improve company growth, we need to improve our customer service experience and so on. But all the time, the word was just improve. And it's like, well, what does improve actually mean for the company? And what does improving your sales team actually mean? And so on. And the more we dug into this, we thought, well, we're going to set the bar at being best. And that can be our goal as an organization. And once we set that goal as being best, it already makes the message clear as to how we show up in front of our customers, how we build our products and so on, because that goal is always to be best at everything that we do. So that is built into our vision, which is the first thing that you'll see when you land onto our connection site. And of course, from there, everything is aligned. So goals that we're monitoring inside of Viva Goals, the knowledge that we're learning inside of Viva Learning, the insights that we have about how we show up to work and how we behave, etc., how we are productive, is all aligning to that that vision, but also that company vision aligned down to individuals' personal visions as well and their values. So when we determine, well, how are we going to be best? We're determining how we're going to be best, or what does the best customer service look like? And that becomes the focus. What's the best employee experience like? And we actually reached out to our employees and asked, what does the best employee experience look like for them? And we got lots of feedback. Fortunately, it wasn't salary, but we had information such as a flexible working environment, being heard, and so on, having an input, was all information that was coming back to us that we could start to work with in order to be able to build the best employee experience. And we did the same thing with our products through things like SWOT analysis, exercises, and so on, to determine how we build the best product in the market and so on. So that's the first thing that you'll see inside our Viva Connections site. And we've also integrated our own product into here as well, Social Squared. So Social Squared is a discussion board tool that is embedded into our Connections site. And inside that Connections site, we've actually exposed some of the information from it into adaptive cards. And I'll be able to show you that in just a moment. But that dashboard is what we can basically use to display some information. It may be information that's coming from different apps throughout your organization. It could be from the news feed. It could be, as mentioned, from things like Social Squared and other parts of Viva as well. So you'll see here over on the right hand side is Viva Connections through my phone, and this is showing a couple of custom adaptive cards, and we've also got assigned tasks, which is working with Planner, and we've got Viva Insights as well, so I can check out how I'm working and so on, and my productivity and well-being. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So I'm going to bring up Viva Connections, and you can see that whilst it does look like a SharePoint site, the way that I'm accessing Viva Connections is through the Viva Connections personal app over on the left-hand side here. So if you haven't already accessed that inside of your environment, and you know that there is a Viva Connections site already created, you can access that by adding the Viva Connections app as a personal app, or it might have already been pinned for you as well, so that when you first go into Teams, you're just going to see that over on the left-hand side. And clicking it is going to bring up the Viva Connections site, which, yeah, it does look like a communication site inside of SharePoint. But what is different is down here, you have the dashboard, and that dashboard shows up through your mobile device and can also show up on the desktop as well. And as we go further down, this is just the demo environment, so it's not the production one, but you can see here we've got forum groups inside of Social Squared about how we can be the best employee experience, how we can build the best products and the best customer service and so on. And if there's anything that's maybe a question that's gone unanswered or anything like that, we're able to expose that through one of the custom adaptive cards that we've built using the SharePoint framework. And these adaptive cards, they're all personalized, or can be personalized. So let's just jump in and take a look at it. So I'm going to go into in fact, let me just open that up directly inside of SharePoint. I should have done that initially. Okay, so so here inside of SharePoint, we've got the connection site, and I'm going to come down as a different user. Sorry, not going too well so far. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, so I'm now in as a user who can edit the connection site with a bit of luck. Oh, I love switching accounts. Okay, just bear with me whilst I pull this up. Okay, and we're there. All right, so sorry, it's just caching my my credentials on which account I'm logged in as. So you'll notice here I can come down to manage Viva Connections, and when we're going to manage Viva Connections, we've got the dashboard component. So we can go into that dashboard and we can edit that dashboard. So when we're editing the dashboard, try that one more time. Here we go. So when we edit the dashboard, we've got the mobile experience and we've also got the desktop experience. So the mobile experience is going to show up to anybody that is using the Teams app. And when they go into that Teams app through the personal app, they're choosing Viva Connections. And they'll basically see three different views, which I'm going to show you in a moment. But this is one of the dashboards that they will see. And on here, we can create whatever components we want that person to be able to access. So you'll notice here, we've got a link out to our corporate website. There's top news from the news feed. There's assigned tasks and a couple of custom cards that we've created as well. But over on the left-hand side here is add a card, and these are the different cards that you can add. So there is actually a card designer, and we'll get more into that in a moment. But you'll also notice things like Viva Learning. So we can bring in the Viva Learning card in here, and that gives you access to some of the learning materials that you may want to go through as part of your goals. There's also the Viva Insights card that you can see has been added here as well. But we can also go through and add a Teams app, which if we select that one and go into the properties of that card, we can choose the size of the card, whether it's going to be a large or a medium card, and we can specify the app that we want to display. So if you've got a personal app that is created inside of Teams or available inside of Teams, you can basically go through and access it and see that as a card that you can just basically click through. So that helps you to use the Viva Connections site as a hub to other apps that you want to get to quickly, perhaps when you're on the move. So if you're perhaps on a train and you want to get into the learning apps, you can easily pick up on some of those courses that you're learning, or see your productivity through Insights, or even approvals. So approvals is actually a great one to show. With approvals, you can actually start an approval process, which may be for employment leave or something like that, or annual leave rather, and so on. So we can put together the adaptive cards onto the dashboard, and that dashboard basically gets displayed on the Connections site. I'm just going to go through and republish this, and let's navigate back to the home page of that site. And as we scroll down, you'll see that it's added here, which is basically added as a web part onto that page. So when we click the plus, we can scroll down or search for the dashboard. So there's the dashboard for Viva Connections, and the properties just simply allow you to choose how many of those cards you want to show on that dashboard at any one time. Okay, so that's part of it. You've also got the news feed. So you can see here we've got some news about Social Square being nominated for the most innovative app at the European SharePoint conference and so on. So that can be rolling up from other sites that are inside the hub as well, or just this site, and made available to users. And everything can be audience targeted based on who you are as a user. So a bit more than just a SharePoint site, but the best thing about the Viva Connections is that it's evolving all of the time. So what you'll see here is Microsoft's announcement from a week or two ago about some of the other cards that are being developed by other ISVs, and also through Microsoft as well, to expose other parts of Viva, such as Headspace being created in here. There's custom apps to make sure that you've done a COVID test, perhaps during the day, and that type of thing also. So this is becoming far more integrated with the rest of Viva, and will continue to flow in that direction as well. So that's really the hub. The entry point is through Connections. With Microsoft Viva Insights, Microsoft Viva Insights is really focused on you as an individual and what your productivity and your well-being is. And again, when you first see that, you might just think, well, isn't this just My Analytics? We used to get this email from My Analytics every day. Now we get an email from Microsoft Viva every day, pretty much saying the same thing. But again, it does go beyond that. We actually have a page that is all to do with how we're working. It's got insights and suggestions being shown up inside of Outlook. We're able to book things like focus time, and there's also partners with Microsoft, such as Headspace, to help improve your well-being and productivity as well. There's the ability to send praise to different team members and make sure that you are on top of those one-to-one meetings, or the employee development meetings as we call them. And finally, there's also a virtual commute that we'll have a look at in just a moment as well. So this is all under the umbrella of the personal insights, but there's also the manager insights as well. And the manager insights allow you to basically see this information as high-level information. It's not personalized, you can't recognize an individual, but it does give you an insight as to, is there any potential for burnout across my team? Are people's habits working out long hours or long hours into the evening? Are they sending emails that aren't being answered until the following day, and so on? And that gives you that ability then to offer more coaching through the one-to-one meetings with your team to make them work more effectively. And there's also leader insights as well that help you to see this not just within a team that's being managed, but across the organization. So you're checking the pulse effectively on how that company is performing with the employee experience. And Power BI can also integrate into that as well to give you lots of visualizations on those insights. So how this has worked with Lightning Tools. Part of working on people's values was to come up with affirmations. So if people coming with the fact that they want to be best by being the best salesperson they can be, or being calmer inside their working environment, being less stressed, and so on, we can actually build out I am statements or affirmations as to how you're going to behave, how you're going to be inside the working day, and also inside your personal life as well. And there's lots of keywords that jump out of that about being more consistent, or being more productive, being better organized, being calmer. And insights align with all of that. So we all promise things on emails. We'll say, yeah, I'll get back to you tomorrow with the answer to this question, and then we forget about it. But Viva Insights will remind us, and we don't need to create a task or anything like that, or create a follow-up. It's going to remind us based on the content that you put in that email, and the fact that we promised a follow-up the following day. If we're consistently turning up late for meetings, we've got too many meetings in our schedule, it's going to highlight that for us. If we're not actually getting much productive time because we don't have any focus time in our calendar, it will highlight that too. So this is all the information that we can use to help people be more productive, to be better organized, and so on as well in their working day. So let's just take a quick look at Viva Insights. So I'm just going to jump into that now. Okay, so here in Viva Insights, again, this is the demo environment, so there's not a lot of great content to look at versus our production environment, but you'll see some of the things that we've got. First of all, this is a great one. If you stated in your I am statements that you're always going to be happy, well, let's just check that. Are we happy today? And you can look back on your history to see how happy you have been in your working day. We can build out teams if you are a manager, and as we scroll down, you'll also see some suggestions like sending praise to some of your colleagues. So what I can do is choose to send praise. We could maybe send praise based on achieving a certain goal, which of course aligns with the Viva Goals, or solving a particular problem, etc. We can basically choose those and add a personal note, choose who we want to send it to, and we can keep that private as a one-to-one, or we can also make the whole team available. Oh, sorry, the team aware as well, and choose the team that we want to post that into. So that's how that's integrated into Teams too. So I can just hit that send button as a personal praise to Abina here, and he's going to, of course, feel better about that accomplishment that he made. There's reminders to do that as well. So of course, this is something we may forget to do about sending praise. So we may not have praise that we want to send every single day, but what we could do is just have a little jog of our memories that, you know, maybe we should consider sending praise to our employees each day. So I can set a reminder to do that, and then Teams is going to prompt me to send that praise at the day and the time that I set. It also reminds me to schedule one-to-one time. So you'll notice in here, I've got over the past 4 weeks, we've had less than 30 minutes of one-to-one time, which in our production environment isn't accurate. In this demo environment, it is. But yeah, what we could do is go through and schedule that one-to-one time with my team. So yeah, we can confirm who our team is, and you'll notice down here, we've got that ability to schedule that one-to-one time with each of the team members. So also on a more sort of personal note, you've got, like I mentioned, the partners. So through Headspace, there's all sorts of great meditation videos or audio tracks that you can listen to and so on. One of them actually is when you're about to give a presentation. So that's one that I've used several times. It allows you to do some deep breathing exercises and things like that, and just basically mentally prepare for that presentation or mentally prepare for the day. So that's great. If you've ever used Headspace before, I was using it prior to using Microsoft Viva. So I had the app on my phone that I was paying for, but yet you now get that as part of Viva as well. And you'll see there's also reminders to take breaks during the day, schedule focus time, so that's always in your calendar and nobody can book over it, and so on, which all will help to make you a more productive person. So that's the type of thing you've got available to you personally. Teamwork habits, you can go through and check those out as well as to how your team is working. Are they consistently showing up late or sending emails late at night, etc. And there's also an inspiration library as well about how you can have better well-being and improve the culture as well. There's several different settings. So as we go into the settings, you can go through and set reminders. So for example, I've got the virtual commute currently switched off here. So let's turn that on. I can choose the typical time of the day where I wrap up, and if I'm working from home, this gives me that sort of clear cut-off time where it's now personal time, so I can be notified when it's time for my virtual commute. And that's just a reminder. You've got the, again, invitation to create calmness through Headspace, but also mentally prepare for the following day. It will tell you what meetings you've got scheduled and so on, so you're ready for that, and you can reflect on what occurred today as well. Again, ability to protect time, etc. So all of that is something you can configure for you to help with your well-being and your productivity. So Viva Topics is another area, and as a technical company, as a software company, there's lots of technical terms that are created all the time. If we just take our products themselves, people may not be aware if they're especially a new starter inside the organization, what a specific product does, and also the many versions of it. So we've got terms such as SPFX, it's a SharePoint Framework app. Maybe if the same product was available for SharePoint on premises, it may be a WSP, and people don't necessarily know what WSP means. And it could have a different meaning for Lightning Tools than it would do for any other organization as well. So what we can do with Viva Topics is actually use AI to go through and discover all of the different terms that have been used by people inside of the content inside of your Microsoft 365 environment. There's maybe creating documents or generally just creating content through list items, etc. And there's going to be abbreviations, there's going to be terms or phrases that are used that people won't necessarily know what that means. So what Viva Topics will do for you is highlight these terms, and what you can do is go through and check whether its definition of that term is correct and who the people are associated with that term as well. So take, for example, Deliver Point. If you're a new starter inside of Lightning Tools, you may not know what deliver point is. You hear it being bashed around inside of meetings. You may hear a customer mention it and so on that you're on the phone to. So what you can do is do a quick search on the word deliver point, and rather than just seeing documents that are related to deliver point, which may be equally as technical, you're going to end up with a little topic card that will accurately describe in layman's terms what deliver point is, and it will tell you the people that are associated with deliver point and what their involvement with it is as well. So from that, we'll be able to see, well, who are the developers working on deliver point? Who is a technical support person that specializes in deliver point? Who's the product manager for deliver point, and so on. And this could all be information that is flagged up when you need it in many different apps. And those apps include modern SharePoint pages. In fact, they are a modern SharePoint page, a topic, through the Microsoft search, also searching in Word and PowerPoint, Outlook and Excel, and you can also use them with a hashtag inside a Teams chat, either a one-to-one chat or also in a channel posts chat as well. So when you put hashtag deliver point, that effectively becomes a hyperlink to display a card where people will be able to determine what that keyword means. So effectively, it's topics that are pinned to people. And you don't have to work with just the ones that are suggested. You can also create your own as well. Top left-hand corner here is actually inside of PowerPoint. This is whilst I was building this very slide deck. I just did a search on deliver point, and what you'll be able to see here is a little topic card that just came up from Viva Topics that explained what deliver point was. So how this can be used inside of Lightning Tools, or how it is used inside of Lightning Tools. Yeah, new starters. In fact, it was mentioned to me today by an employee. My understanding of products and what they do now is far better than it was just a few years ago. It is a technical, obviously, product, and if you're starting Lightning Tools in sales, or if you're starting it inside of marketing or whatever, there's a lot of new terms that you need to learn, and Topics will help you to learn that. You'll also notice here that search of deliver point brought back a topic card. This is just a standard Microsoft search. Brought back a topic card with some alternate names. So deliver point SPFX, just deliver point Pro, and the people that are associated with it, and that description of what that product does. And it will also suggest resources as well. So there could be, in this case, a license agreement or another file associated with it that you can choose whether or not that should be associated with that topic. So we'll have a quick look at topics and what that can do. So I'm actually going to jump here into production, but be careful what I display. So the reason for that is just a lot more content in production than there is in a demo environment. And I'm going to focus in on Data Viewer down here. And this one is actually quite good fun to look at. So the word lightning was highlighted not by me. I didn't create the topic manually, but sometimes it's all research through Wikipedia and things like that as well. So the word lightning, it's a naturally occurring electrostatic discharge, and that came up today earlier on Teams too. But yeah, that's one of the keywords. There's lots of different alternate names that have been suggested, just not by anybody inside the company, but through the AI. What you'll notice here is Data Viewer, and as I hover over that, you'll see the Data Viewer is simple to use, modern web part for Microsoft Teams and Microsoft SharePoint Online. It's got some people associated with it, and it's got some resources as well, such as a slide deck that I put together. So this is one that's been suggested. I've confirmed it as being accurate, but what I can do is go through and modify that if I want to. So yeah, we can review it. Okay, so that brings up the data viewer. So if I want to be a bit more accurate as to what that description is, we can just simply click onto edit. We could put some alternate names. So what is the data viewer without a space? So DVWP might be one of them that we want to use as an abbreviation. And we could have DV SPFX as well. So data viewer SPFX web part and so on, or just data viewer web part. We can list as many of those alternate names that people might search on. We can elaborate perhaps on the description of what the data viewer is, and then we can pin people to it. But notice that it's already suggesting people to me. But what I could do is either just confirm one of those as being accurate, or we could put a name in here and say that I am product manager for data viewer. And then we'll also add Sandy. And Sandy could be technical evangelist, and so on. So people know what our roles are in relation to the data viewer. And there's different files that we could also pin. There's actually suggested file down here that we can just pin those to say, yeah, these are files that would be useful resources for the term data viewer. And then once I'm ready, I can just simply publish that. And if I was to search SharePoint, so I don't have to be in the Lightning Tools topic site, I could search this from anywhere. If I do a search for data viewer, here's topics being displayed. So it's not just content, it's actually the Viva Topics, and we can now go through that and get clear on what the data viewer is. Okay, so that's a bit of Viva Topics. Like I say, those cards are really useful when you need them, and has certainly helped with people's knowledge of the products and different terminology used, especially when we're dealing with technical customers as well. They may mention a term that we've not heard of before. We could do a quick search for it, and we may be able to come across as being more intelligent when we're having that conversation. All right, so Viva Learning, a fairly obvious one here on how this can help. There's lots of courses that you can go through that are provided through LinkedIn Learning, but also other partners, and you can allow or disallow those different partners through the Viva Learning app inside your organizational settings in the Microsoft 365 admin site. So Viva Learning, set of different courses on lots of different subjects that you can learn from. So again, in your employee development meetings or as part of your goals, if you want to learn more about something, maybe you want to become a product manager, you want to improve your sales skills, you want to improve presentation skills, you're likely to find courses on those subjects. So when you land into Viva Learning, you can choose the type of course that you're interested in. You can share those with people through Teams. You can recommend them to people, and you can also pin them as a tab inside of a team as well. So if it's something that your entire team would benefit from, you could go through and pin that course through the channel tabs. So, of course, improving knowledge comes up a lot in employee development meetings. It's aligned well to personal values and company values and to goals as well. And it's become far more accessible than the old sort of classroom-led training courses that you may have attended in the past. So going and sitting a 5-day course, you may just get certain bits of it that are relevant, but you've also had a lot of costs and time out involved in attending that course. So with this, you can actually schedule time inside your calendar for learning, make time for it, make the space for it, and also align that to personal goals, which is something you can work with your manager on that would show up in Viva Goals as well. So what we'll do is just jump in and take a look at what Viva Learning looks like. So so here, again, you could either access it directly or you can add Viva Learning as a personal app. So, so I've added it as a personal app here inside the team. So I can just click onto that. This again is inside the demo environment, so this is unconfigured. This is pretty much how you're going to see it for the first time. So the first one to look at is your saved interest. So I'm going to click onto edit with that one. That's right, it does look like I was clicking around earlier. So let me just deselect some of these. So yeah, there's all sorts of things that I might want to attend courses on in here. So if I choose marketing, maybe Microsoft Graph, Microsoft 365, etc., we could start off with just those ones, save them, and you can see already down here we've got some marketing courses being suggested to me, Microsoft 365 courses, and also Microsoft Graph courses as well. So here's a introduction to Microsoft Graph PowerShell. So this is something that I could bookmark, so that way I can come up to my learning and see that it's been bookmarked, ready for me to watch at some point. But what I could also do is also, perhaps once I've watched it, found it useful, is decide that I want to share it. So I could copy the link, and that gives me obviously the freedom to put it into Viva Engage, or put it into a one-to-one chat or an email or something, or I can effectively just choose Teams and choose what teams I want to put this into. So yeah, I'll select that team there. I can say, yeah, this is very relevant to you. And share that. So anybody then inside that team is going to see that I've recommended that course to them, and they can go through and start to watch it. Okay, so yeah, that's my learning. There's some that have been recommended to me. So how to organize your time and your life. Recommended by Sandy. Thank you, Sandy. And we can also see the ones that we've recently viewed and completed as well. And under manage, yeah, you can you can keep track of all those different courses under there too, which is obviously useful. And you can create your own learning sets through the admin panel for that one. So lots of different courses that you can go through and access, and like I say, through Viva Insights, you can also schedule the time to watch those too. So Viva Goals, the last one that we're going to be talking about here. So Viva Goals is one of the most recent modules of Microsoft Viva, and yeah, it kind of does what it says on the tin. What we've been using is actually just a methodology of SMART goals prior to using Viva Goals. SMART goals is almost exactly the same as how Viva Goals is working. So when you create an OKR in Viva Goals, we're basically creating SMART goals. So it's not an intention. So an intention might be, for example, I want to lose weight, or I want to become more knowledgeable in SharePoint, or whatever. A SMART goal is very specific. So a specific goal might be, I need to lose 14 pounds in weight, or I need to pass a specific exam inside of SharePoint. It becomes measurable. So obviously I could jump on the scales every day. I could do some test exams and see how well I'm performing. It's got to be something that's achievable, but a stretch. So that's the A. It's realistic and it's timely. So there is a deadline to it. So each SMART goal should be listed in that way and contain each of those components. But what Viva Goals allows you to do is go through and define the company goals and also your personal goals. And if you're creating a personal goal, you can also align that to a company goal as well. So we can create these OKRs that is basically describing how Lightning Tools can be the best software company as defined inside our vision. And that gives us clarity on where we need to improve and how we need to improve it. So when we're taking that as best software company, what does that actually mean in terms of products? What does it mean in terms of tech support? What does it mean in terms of customer service and employee experience and so on? So if we're creating something specific, we're not just improving our customer service, we've got to be able to measure that and be specific about it. So it may be that we get a higher rating from our tech support tickets when people respond to it. So we may go from 70% to 80% improvement. So that would be specific, it would be measurable, and we set a time limit on it, which you can do when you're creating that OKR, and you can check in on it as well to measure the progress of that goal. So it highlights all of the priorities to the organization as well. So that's one of the challenges that we faced earlier on in Lightning Tools is you may have had a priority that was in my head, wasn't well communicated with everybody inside the organization, and they were working on something else. So by creating goals, you can see a deadline, you can see how important it is to the company, and everybody will be in tune with that and be able to achieve those goals, and therefore achieving the company vision. So let's just take a look at Viva Goals. So we'll jump in here. And these are kind of fictional ones that we put together. So you'll see there is one, of course, to be the best software company. We've got research and improve customer satisfaction, which is overall what we're going to be doing. But as we expand that, you'll see the SMART goals as we refer to them as. So in here, we've got raise the average FCS AT score from 6 to 8.5. We've got get 1,000 survey responses to an annual satisfaction survey, and so on. So these are things that we can put into place as SMART goals, and then we can check in on them. So if we want to check in on them, we may decide that, yeah, we're at this stage. So so when I'm checking in, which might be part of, again, an employee development meeting or a group meeting, we can specify where we're at this given time, choosing whether we're on track, behind, or not started, or at risk, and we can basically check in on that, and that will give us an overall score for the OKR here for researching and improving the customer satisfaction. So you can add your own objectives through here. So basically giving our improvement, and we can start to assign projects to that OKR as well. So these are Lightning Tools OKRs. There's also my OKRs. So you can go through and create your own. So I've got improve my organizational skills, and as we expand that, I've got use Microsoft Learning once a week for an hour on time management. So so that's my goal that I've put together. And when I create that goal, as I mentioned, I can align that to a company goal as well. So so here, if we add a project, yeah, I'm going to I don't know, read about time management, and of course I'll make that a specific goal. So I can set my progress and what the outcome is going to be. So I'd add my metric to make it measurable, and then at the bottom here is where I could actually align that with another goal if I wanted to, including a company goal. Okay, so once I've saved that, that is a new project associated with that, and we can keep track of it. So over on the left, you will notice there's different teams. So different teams of people, like the sales team could have their own goals, the support could have their own goals, and each user could have their own goals too. So we can go through and look at other people's OKRs, and we can see how they're performing with their goals too, which is of course really powerful. And the idea of doing that is so that we can work together on achieving the company goals. You've got the ability to follow, so we can see updates, perhaps as Sandy progresses or other people progress, and likewise with the team goals as well. And there's also different views. So in here we can actually see a chart view of how all these goals interrelate and how we're doing in each of those different goals and projects too. Okay, so that is some of the modules that make up Microsoft Viva, and that was obviously a very high level overview of what each of those modules do. There is Viva Engage, which is really sort of an evolution of Microsoft Yammer. So of course that fits in as well, giving you better communication and so on. That works extremely well with Connect. We've not been using that so much because, well, social squared, but it is something that you could use. And there's also the Microsoft Viva Sales as well, which is more of a Microsoft 365 Dynamics module. So you can check all of those out by going to aka.ms/Microsoft-Viva. Also, one of our partners, 365 Tribe, is doing some Microsoft Viva workshops, and this is something that is funded. So if that's something that you wanted to check out, you could go to 365tribe.co.uk/Microsoft Viva workshop. There is also our partners and sister company Enlightening. So Enlightening offers coaching. This is something that we can work with you on in terms of getting started with each of these different modules. And there's also Viva Explorers. So you can, in fact, that might be vivaexplorers.org. Sorry, I should check that. But yeah, Viva Explorers, quick Google of Viva Explorers, you're going to find them. They actually have an event here next month in Manchester at Microsoft. Yeah, they're also putting a lot of good content out there, and you'll be able to find out who the people are behind Viva Explorers, which are a lot of Microsoft MVPs. They're speaking around lots of different events in the world. So you could find out who those speakers are and maybe attend some conferences and watch their sessions. But at that point, I will open up for any questions if there are any. I saw Matt, my colleague, put in the Q&A to ask questions if you have, and I don't see any. So if there are any, you can put them in the Q&A panel or also in the chat window as well, and I'll be happy to answer them. Or if you wanted to reach out to me personally, feel free to email me on brett@lightningtools.com as well.